Calvin. Appreciate you taking a moment, man. Huge news in Cowboy land. Brian Schottenheimer, can you take us through this hiring, the process, and what is your personal reaction as well?
Well, I'm kind of surprised they hired him. I think the whole thing just started.
Supposed to be interviewing players.
Thanks, Jonathan. Kind of surprised. I'm kind of surprised they hired him. This whole process started like last weekend when his name surfaced. The scouts love him because he has a great relationship with the scouts. The Cowboys didn't have a massive search, as you know. They interviewed like 4 people. Of those 4, maybe Kellen Moore might have been the best, but for how the Cowboys do business, Brian Schottenheimer might be the number 1 guy for them, just based on all the people that they talked to formally for an interview.
Do you feel like, what do you think was the deciding factor? Was it just kind of the in-house knowing the candidate kind of thing?
I think the deciding factor was the familiarity with Dak Prescott and the offense. As you know, Schottenheimer runs the West Coast offense. He's been with the Cowboys for the last 3 years. When he first got here, he was a consultant, remember? And then the last 2 years, he was the defensive coordinator, but didn't call plays. But basically, he was running Mike McCarthy's offense. And Schottenheimer knows that offense. So you keep him as a head coach. It's good for Dak. It's good for CeeDee Lamb. So that was, I'm sure, I would say of the 5 things that you have to rank about why you kept him as a head coach, that was probably number 2.
And do you feel like from people you're talking to around the league, does not interviewing the Ben Johnsons of the world, the Aaron Glenns of the world, the guys that were considered the top candidates, what do you make of that?
Well, I think we should interview them. Whether or not Ben Johnson thought coming to the Cowboys was going to benefit him, I don't know. Whether or not Aaron Glenn thought this was a good job or not, I don't know. But make the request to talk to them, because you want to talk to as many people as possible. If they turn you down, that's fine. But make the request, because if you're the Dallas Cowboys and you say we're the best in the business, then you talk to the best in the business.
And we heard that, Pete Carroll was called, but it sounds like that was more about getting intel on Schottenheimer. Were you surprised that he wasn't interviewed either?
I was surprised they didn't interview Pete Carroll. They did have a conversation, and then it morphed into, hey, I could be the head coach here, right? But that was also a play to get the Raiders to say, we got to get a coach, let's get Pete in here. So there's a lot of people using each other. Pete Carroll definitely been a good hire here. He's experienced, won the Super Bowl, been in 2 Super Bowls, kind of similar to Mike McCarthy. And I don't think you have to change much. But the Cowboys hired the best guy for them.
From your end, how did the Dion situation end up in terms of where they left it? Because it sounded like they may, revisit it, but then the process obviously moved forward. But how did that whole situation end up? From?
I think they were using each other. I mean, Dion had a contract on the table at Colorado and needed more money for NIL and for his own contract. So, hey, I got the Cowboys looking at me. Now, realistically, Dion was not going to coach in Dallas. Sanders did a fantastic job in Colorado. He deserves whatever he's going to get in Colorado. But we also know that Jerry Jones was not going to go down that path. But because Jerry and Dan are very close, they decided to help each other.
And, we've heard some, I guess, not official reports, but Eberflus has been out there for DC. Well, what are you hearing? Jason Witten's obviously been out there too. What are you hearing on the coaching staff side of things?
They're going to interview Matt Eberflus at some point. I would say he's a favorite to become the defensive coordinator, but you have to go through the interview process. You got to take care of 2 Rooney Rule candidates, and after you do that and you interview Flus, then you bring him in. Jason Witten, I've heard, might be on the staff in some capacity. Maybe he's a position coach. As you know, he's a great tight end, might go to the Hall of Fame. So you bring Witten in here as a possibility, but there's a lot to play. A lot is going to happen between now and probably the Combine. But I think the staff will be finalized before then.
How close was Kellen Moore? Was he the runner-up, so to speak? Would you say?
Maybe so. They had a virtual interview with him. They know Kellen Moore, obviously, because he was here, he played here, all those kinds of things. They know him. I guess you could say he was a runner-up. But when you're interviewing all your people and you're analyzing it, Do you want to wait till after the Super Bowl, if say Philly gets there, they beat Washington, before you can hire Kellen Moore? Or you got Brian Schottenheimer, the offense can stay the same. And that's the thing. The biggest difference between Kellen Moore and Brian Schottenheimer, offensively, we kind of know what Schottenheimer wants to do. It's the West Coast offense. You never got an identity about what Kellen Moore does with his offense. Yeah, he grew up in the timing-based offense with Ernie Campese and all those guys, and Jason Garrett. But I really don't know what his identity is as a coordinator. I know what offense he really runs. So Schottenheimer is probably a better fit in terms of what the Cowboys wanted to do.
Got you. And the Robert Saleh interest, that was genuine interest, you feel, right, as well?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They flew him in here on a Saturday. They like Robert Saleh. He's a fantastic defensive coordinator. Didn't have a lot of success in New York, but that could be about the dysfunction that the Jets are, and it's hard for anybody to kind of get that thing going. Good luck, Aaron Glenn, right? But I think Saleh was a legitimate candidate. I think he surprised some people that were in the room with the Cowboys during the interview process. So, yeah, he was a legit candidate, and I also thought that if he didn't get the job, maybe you bring him back and interview him for the defensive coordinator spot. But he's going to San Francisco to do that.
And obviously, Mike McCarthy was linked to the Bears job. What do you feel is next for him?
Well, I thought he might have gotten the Bears job since they reached out to him, right? But when you have a good agent, he can get your name out there. So there's one job left. That's New Orleans. He used to coach in New Orleans. He's very fond of the city. Maybe he gets the Saints job. He'd be a really good hire there. This is a guy that's coached the team to a Super Bowl, which he won. The Cowboys he had 3 consecutive seasons with 12 wins. So Mike McCarthy's got a good resume. If you hire Mike McCarthy, it's not a bad hire, right? So we'll see if he gets the Saints job.
And I'm sure you more than anyone feel kind of the Cowboys fan frustration. I'm sure you get the tweets or the X's now. And do you feel that anything might change from a philosophy standpoint in terms of, free agency coming up? Like, obviously a huge talking point was, not going after the Derrick Henrys and the Saquons and the Aaron Joneses and, not filling your needs. Do you feel there will be a philosophical change at all, or is this the same old Cowboys?
Well, the only way you can make a change is if you got cap space.
Right.
So they're kind of tight with cap space. However, you can make your money work for you. You can arrange the cap how you want it. The cap goes up every year about $15 to $20 million, So you can make some decisions. You don't have to be cheapskates in free agency, right? So that's where they are. That's what they've always been conservative. I was trying to remember the last time they spent big money in free agency. You have to go back to Brandon Carr, and they gave him a 5-year, $50.1 million deal, right? Other than that, the Cowboys pay their money to the people they draft. They were a draft-developed club. Now, will that change under Brian Schottenheimer? I'm not sure, but it might have to, especially with the fans being upset with the fact that you're not being big players in free agency.
For sure. Last one for you as well. So we are at the East-West Shrine Bowl. Is there any, just doing your research, some scouting, or just talking to scouts or your sources, is there anyone that stands out to you from kind of a Cowboys fit here? Any guys that are like Cowboy guys, you feel?
It's kind of hard to say because we just got a coach. I was talking to one of the scouts, and we were like, well, so because are you late to the process here? He said, not necessarily. So one of the things they do like is they're not opposed to getting more smaller receivers, guys you can put in the slot. I think McCarthy liked big receivers. And the Schottenheimer, they might go, hey, if you're a slot guy, let's go do it, right? Defensively, they're not really sure what they're going to do because you need to know who the coordinator is. Now, Matt Eberflus, his scheme is similar to Mike Zimmer's. So you kind of have an idea. He wants big guys up front. But specific names is so early in the process, hard to tell right now.
All right, Calvin. Well, we appreciate you breaking down the new news for us, and I appreciate you taking some time. Thank you very much.
Thanks for thinking of me, man.